Today is Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. I'd like to introduce Mr. Pete Benoit as our new member. He was sworn in this past week. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. We certainly could use the extra folks to help us out. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have you on board. Do I have a motion to open the meeting?
Motion to open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are open. I want to start a new tradition tonight. Before we actually get into the nuts and bolts of the meeting, I'd like to say the Pledge of Allegiance before we get started, and then we'll get into it, okay?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. So on the agenda tonight, we're going to cover some reserve fund transfers and some interdepartment transfers as well. So I think the way we're going to do this is, like last time, we had Melissa read through each one individually, and if there's any discussion, we'll discuss it, and then we'll vote on each one. Okay?
So the first one will be Veterans Department, and then Veterans Benefits for $13,490. The town accountant's salary town accountant line for $1,274. And the selectmen's salaries clerical line for $2,435, totaling $17,199 going to town council legal expenses. And this is our final May and June bills, and these were due to BJP legal fees.
Question for you. Is there any way of recouping this from PJP once this goes through the whole legal, do you know?
I am
Is it
not
something
into
that
the
can be
legal.
pursued, like the town get reimbursed?
I'd say if we lose, no.
Well, no, right, if we lose, no, but if we win, is it something that could be recouped maybe?
I will definitely ask. I'm not involved in those meetings, so I can't answer that, but it's definitely something I can get back to you.
Okay.
Does that cover the current balance that we have with the legal fees?
Correct, all the last of May and June.
That's the last 2 months.
Correct, because the last time we did March and April, now this is May and June.
Do you have a figure on how much we've spent on legal fees so far?
We average about 10,000 a month, so it's around.
That's like including heating.
Correct, yeah, because our retainer is like 4,000 a month,
Yeah.
so we spend a little bit more, obviously, than 4,000. These months were actually pretty low, they were about 8,000, 9,000, so these were a little bit lower than previous months. So I think it's
And
time.
we actually think they could win some against an international corporation
Well, why not?
with millions of lawyers.
We're going to give it more, right? You know, for the sake of the people in the South End, I hope
I live in the South End,
they, so do I.
and I
So
have to
did
keep the
I.
windows shut.
So did I, for many, many years.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Next one will be the Finance Committee's salaries clerical line for $173, going to miscellaneous compensated balances for $173. We had a long-time employee retire, and we thought we did a little bit extra enough to cover for all the end-year buybacks, but we were just a little shy.
We have a motion and a second. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next will be the assessors' salaries clerical line for $52, going to assessors' salaries overtime for $52. The reason we have to do this is because the assessors originally didn't have an overtime budget, because we're open Tuesday nights, and that's when we have their meetings, so we cannot leave that line in that deficit, we have to cover it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Melissa, before you go on,
Yes.
Pete, just to give you some clarification on what we're doing right now.
You're moving money from one account to another.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
you
for-
went through this at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, so.
Yeah, and for the folks that might be listening out there, you know, we have a reserve fund where occasionally a department will come to us and they'll need some extra funds to cover a shortfall in their budget. So that, what we're doing tonight is different than that. this is not taking, funds above and beyond. So just to provide some clarity on that.
Next will be the,
Thank
oh, sorry.
I was just saying thank you.
Library will be the salaries clerical line of $2,000 to the library, other supplies and purchases, updating books for $2,000. This is due to the increase of these services. Of course, again, due to COVID, a lot of people downloading things online. This is something that our committee also already approved for this same season.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Right.
Can I ask just a quick question? Library to the library, the trustees don't handle that, it's gotta come to us.
They do approve it, but at the end of the day, it's still their choice if they want to do it.
Okay, all right. And whoever they would handle their budget transfer when they need it.
No, it's just an extra step they have to take when they're looking at it.
Okay.
Check and balance that they're not moving money to a weird fund.
So you're in favor? Eric?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry.
The next one will be council on aging salaries line totaling $2,846. And the town accountant, salaries town accountant line, $2,982. Going to pensions Medicare, and that totals $5,828. This is also COVID related. A lot of people are working hours due to vaccines or testing sites, and having more hours increases the Medicare that we have to pay.
That can't be recouped, who cares?
We have a motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Next will be building department, salaries clerical line, $712. Miscellaneous celebrations, $756. Streetlights energy, $4,532. To the technology telephone line, totaling $6,000. This is the same reasoning as last time. I overestimated, but we still fell short due to all the extra expenses of licenses and new phones and the updated offices to make them more usable.
Motion approved. Second.
We have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Next will be town clerk, travel line, $737. To the town clerk salaries temporary line, $737. They had a lot, again, COVID, a lot more mailings, more licenses and certificates, so that took more manpower.
Second.
We have a motion and second, all in favor? Okay, motion passes.
Speaking of town clerk, I'm sorry for jumping off track, but last time we did transfers to public clerk, she did get some grant money in, so I actually got to take it off this round sheet, so if you guys will be particularly some of it. Next will be police clothing allowance for $23,000. Planning board salaries, $2,989. Treasurer collector, salaries assistant treasurer collector, $2,002. And the reserve fund will be $54,120 to the police salaries overtime, totaling $82,111. There were a few reasons for this. We had someone going to the academy, but the budget for academy line, that was around $25,000. And more overtime due to people being on military leave, and he also had someone injured on duty and someone on light duty. So that created a lot of overtime.
Motion approved. Second.
Maybe a motion and a second, any discussion?
I'd like to ask a question. So this is year-end fiscal year 21, correct? So we're just house cleaning.
Correct.
It's not like they're going to be looking for all this money, because they just, July 1, they're refunded, correct?
They're starting from scratch.
Okay.
Yes.
It just seems like $82,000 is a lot of dough left over in an account at year end that
This
now
is-
gets moved elsewhere, so,
Yeah,
I
this
mean,
is
it's within
higher.
their own department, right?
Well,
It's
actually,
not-
54 grand is out of the reserve
Some
fund.
of it is from the reserve fund on this one.
Oh,
They
gotcha.
only took 23 out of their own fund.
For clothing, obviously, they don't need clothing, it's overfunded.
Well, it's not all in clothing, so what happens is how we run things different from the old accountant, and laws have changed, is that before you couldn't go negative with any line, now it's the expense line as a whole, So I don't have to do clothing for 1,000 and energy for 500. I can just pick one as long as the energy budget, the expense
Doesn't
budget is
go
not.
there.
Correct.
But this is old news stuff.
I mean, this is high, this is not a normal.
No, I understand that, but I just wanted to verify that this is year-end 21,
Correct.
Right.
And we will.
and then we start over.
And I know Monday night, the chief came out and went through an in-depth explanation, and even the selectmen were saying that realistically, police was 50% of the overage budget, or the budget that got transferred here, so they understood too that it was high, but his explanation was very detailed.
Yeah.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Well, actually, the overtime line item has improved quite a bit over the last few years.
That's
They've done a good job.
Yeah, they got some law officers there as well.
He also said that the overtime was reduced because with COVID, they weren't putting two people in a vehicle, so they ran one person short on shifts.
Yeah, it makes sense.
The only thing that they got nailed with is if they had to bring in somebody extra to cover the desk because they didn't have that extra body to pull out of a cruiser and pull in.
Well, also too, the officer in charge reduced a lot because we did have those extra sergeants. So it kind of washed a little bit, but that helps too.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
The next is highway salaries permanent, $16,734. Town building salaries overtime, $1,165. Forestry tree removal, $2,900. And reserve fund, we did $19,399, sorry. And that went to fire salaries overtime, totaling $40,198. And he had a full-time employee out for 8 months. It was off and on for a while. He was finally, eventually no longer with us, but he had 8 months of employee out, so it was a lot of overtime.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Just to note, at the selectmen's meeting, the fire chief also came up with a very detailed for his overages, and you were the one who did it, right? Did you do the reading, going through this at the?
Yes,
So, I know you moved it to the first and second option so that they could get out early, but
yes, yeah. They went much more depth with it being their department. So the next will be miscellaneous celebrations, $93, going to technology salaries, $93. At the end of the year, we have to do a transfer to school, and they obviously, they gave a little bit higher of a increase than the town did, so that's just to cover a little bit of the technology salary.
Motion approved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Next will be sewer enterprise fund, energy line, $1,219, going to the sewer enterprise fund, salary superintendent line of $1,219. There was just a little bit issue of percentage of the pay. He did get paid correctly, it just was portioned incorrectly with the funds.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Next is library, salaries clerical line, $3,268, and soil board salaries, $148. Going to park salaries line, totaling $3,416. And they didn't do a lot in FY20, so when FY21 came, they did a lot more to try to kind of catch up and clean up, so this is just some extra time they put in.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Next is planning board salaries, $1,660. To planning board communication advertising, $1,660. And this was more advertising during the solar projects.
Motion approved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Last is CMAS trash recycling hauling, $244. Going to CMAS salaries permanent, $244. And again, as same before, they have longer hours now that they pay for budget for.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Yes, so this one, extra one, this is separate because the Board of Selectmen did approve it in the original meeting, but it was pulled from the Finance Committee because they had a question on what kind of course it was. And you'll notice it's a little bit less than originally anticipated because one of the courses are actually happening this fiscal year, so we can't get paid in '21. But these fees were for home. So let me read them, so I'm jumping out of course here. The Health Department salaries overtime of $199 and assessors salaries clerical line $161. Going to assessors dues, subscriptions and memberships for $360. And this is for a certification. So it's definitely not a fluff class, it's a class that she needs to stay certified.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
What's the question? What do you have left now? Can we wipe that out?
No. It was 90, it was like 98,000 still, so it was all about 20 years, so we need to work it out.
All right, so the next one on the agenda is a request for transfer from the Golf Reserve Fund in the amount of $100,000. This is being used for blades, I guess on mowers that are outdated and not OSHA compliant, and other equipment that's needed to keep the course in the correct condition. So if you look beyond this initial page, it shows that it looks like they're going to get a new industrial-sized mower, which is going to take up the bulk of this cost. So it's not just blades on mowers, because that would be pretty costly. They're just blades on mowers. So there's more to it on the last page of this.
Yeah, we don't have.
We don't have the.
All right, so I'll read it out, but that's okay. So at their May 27, 2021 committee meeting, the golf committee voted unanimously to recommend that the excess funds available in FY21 be allocated to the cash purchases of critical replacement capital items. The committee further recommends replacing the reel grinder and the blade knife grinders and at least one triplex mower. The grinders are over 20 years old. Replacement parts are no longer available and the machines lack adequate safety features. Replacement cost is estimated at $70,000 with useful lifespan of 20 years. The mower is critical to maintaining the turf quality and the playability of the greens at our town course, as well as the tee box areas. The mower is used daily and will replace a 10-year-old high-maintenance repair mower. Replacement cost is estimated at $58,370.
So most of a lot of the older equipment that we put up, errors is on them, or we can't get parts for them. And right now, we made some decent money at the course.
Right, I mean,
So
the golf
now
course
we're
is
to buy,
played more.
pay for it instead of having to finance it, so we're not having to finance charges on it.
Have they decided the golf course that, I know there was some discussion about leasing versus purchasing, and they decided obviously they gotta go with purchasing equipment rather than.
Well, certain, these pieces here, they want to purchase,
Yeah,
instead of leasing them.
okay. I don't know how much equipment they lease versus,
But, this stuff here, they want to, some of them.
Well, it
They
makes
just,
sense.
they just keep falling
I
apart.
think it makes sense to
And
probably purchase them.
one of the machines here is OSHA, is not approved by OSHA anymore. And it's a liability to have people out there working with it.
I think it makes sense to probably purchase them, considering that I believe the note is under 10 years, I think, on the golf course.
Yeah.
It's 7.
So 7 years, so then, there's not going to be a note anymore on that, and I think if we can maintain it ourselves, it's going to be even more revenue.
Last year, this last year, we've done very well. With COVID and stuff and all.
Well, that was one of the activities that last summer people could do.
Yeah.
Outside was golfing, and the weather was really good last summer. I mean, this year in July, it's been kind of crappy so far with all the rain we've had. But hopefully it picks up.
So
I
how
know.
much is this transfer?
This transfer was for a total of $100,000
And it's from their
from
own reserve?
their own reserve.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know on Monday night, they were talking about that they did have a great year, that they've got increased salaries coming up. The selectmen were talking about amongst themselves coming up with, along with the golf course itself, a bonus program based on how well they do each year instead of an automatic increase in salaries. So that the employees would be more likely to push to make the course as good as it could, and however they can come up with increasing revenue coming from the golf course too, so.
Some selectmen came up with that?
Yeah, they talked about it at the close of the meeting.
Yeah, because I didn't hear anything about that.
It's not officially, it's just something they brought up.
Yeah.
So, but I guess my point was just that they look at it very favorably and trying to find a way to sustain it moving forward.
Yeah, and for the folks maybe watching tonight's meeting, and I know we've talked about this in the past, that our golf course, it's an enterprise fund. So the funds to maintain that course do not come out of taxation. It's fully based on the fees that they collect during the course of the year. And that's how the course is run.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Yeah, the transfer passes.
Just let me see if I should put reserve fund, is 18,000.
18.
Yeah.
That just gets transferred.
I think it was.
Was that the entire fund, 18, for the fiscal year that just ended?
I'm sorry, he's at about the town's general fund,
Yes.
I'm just left in there right now, is 18,000.
That's the reserve fund?
Correct. Golf is cleaning theirs out, they have 100 in doing.
So do you have to clear it out each year, or can you carry it?
No, it's nice, we don't want to touch a reserve fund,
Right.
we want to see what we can leave in there. And we don't have to touch it all.
Being new, where does that leave us historically in terms of the end of the
That's
fiscal year?
I'm sorry?
So where does that generally leave us historically for the end of the year? Like, how do we finish 2020, how do we finish 2019? Did we have roughly the same?
We haven't been in the deficit, that's right. We've always, I mean, again, I just became assistant a couple of years ago as a clerk, I don't know how that was, but since Julie's been here, we've not been in the deficit.
I'm just curious, it doesn't seem like 18,000 is an awful lot.
Oh, this is
That's
just
the
the-
reserve
Yeah.
fund transfer. We put, every year we put 150.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So
what
we have more than 18,000.
Yeah.
Yes, this is an extra checking,
Yeah.
this is a
That's
savings.
July, July 1st.
We have,
Okay.
we have just under, I think, 10% of the budget. We have $2
What
million.
did we put in for an amount in town meeting? It was
I think it was
150?
100 and something.
We did
150
go
this
up
year?
to 150.
Yeah.
Just so you understand what this is, we do a reserve fund, it's a savings bank
Yeah.
that we don't want to use, but we want to keep money that if we do need it for an emergency
Mhm.
situation, we can use it. So this is just extra money. We know we may have to use, but we don't have to. It's not all the money we have in the town. That'd be horrifying.
I understood that, I just didn't know we were refunding it coming July 1st again.
Yes.
And okay.
But as he mentioned, it's usually 100, but we're bumping up to 150 this year.
Given the legal, I think that might have been part of it, I'm not really sure, but
There was another reason too.
there was, I
mm,
don't recall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember there was a reason to we wanted to update the streets, was we were going to do a separate, I'm getting deep into that, okay.
Yeah.
And I apologize, I'm sure I'll have a lot of questions.
I'll give you,
There'll be a lot of terms, free cash, all these things you'll pick up.
I'll give you my number and you
It
can call
doesn't
me
mean what it
anytime.
sounds like.
You'll probably help me learn, so ask me the questions.
I learn something new every year. I've been doing this 16 years. And I relearn things too, because sometimes you forget things the longer you've been doing it. So, yeah, the questions are good and they're welcome. Next on the agenda is old business. So does anybody have any old business to discuss?
Mr. Chairman, did we ever get a response from something?
Not yet. Kathy had emailed me yesterday what she had typed up, and I just signed off on it today, okaying the letter. So now this will get sent to them, so they'll have a chance to go over it. So actually, I'll bring this up, this memorandum that we have in front of us under new business. This was something that we discussed at our last meeting. It brought up by Mr. St. Jean about how we do our annual town meetings going forward. And if there's a way of doing a different format, which would be more of a representative town meeting. So a department could not necessarily stack the meeting with a large group of people because they want to make sure that they get what they're looking for as far as funds. We're looking for a more fair and equitable way, I guess, of having these town meetings without running into that situation all the time.
So what does a representative meeting look like? I mean, I understand everybody having their own voice in a free-for-all meeting.
Bob, do you want to explain that?
I mean, is it a percentage of people in the audience that can vote based on whatever their percentage is of the budget, or?
Representatives, town meeting members are elected, determined by different precincts in a town, which would have, depending on the population, have a representative number of town meeting members.
I understand, a percentage, whatever it happens to be.
Whatever it happens to be. And at the town meeting, those folks are the only ones that can vote on any item. And they represent, the town meeting members represent the residents of their particular precincts.
Okay.
Do you think, Bob, we'd have more than 3?
Oh, yeah.
Because we only vote in 3 different precincts.
Well, we have three precincts, but you may have 20 members on
Within-
one precinct
okay.
and 20 out on another, depending on, what the population shift is at the time, and whatever's decided by the Board of Selectmen and the town meeting. Would have, that would encompass a
Plus, it's tough
charter
to
change.
get people into the
Exactly.
town meeting
Yeah.
routinely, yearly anyway, so I mean, that would help that.
Yeah, turnout.
It does require a charter, right?
Yes,
Right.
yeah, but the charter change. I mean, this is not something that they can do with a vote,
Oh, no, it would have to go to a meeting.
Right.
Yeah, this
So
is.
it's a lengthy process. This is probably the first step in probably a 2-year process.
Right, we're probably not gonna see this next town meeting.
Basically, it's for Haven.
Yeah, Fagan has that type of.
A lot of point of views.
But I think it's good to get the discussion started though.
Oh, yeah. It's, we just can't afford to have, different departments.
Whenever a department has an agenda, they flood the, I don't care what department it is.
Exactly.
They just flood the town hall, and
Police, fire,
the town meeting.
school.
And after their vote is taken,
After they vote,
they
they
vacate.
gone, they listen, the rest of it was just whatever they're on their agenda.
I talked with
They've been
a
doing
couple
that
of
for
different,
years.
I talked with a couple of different communities that have the representative town meeting. And they feel that they have better informed members at the town meeting. Because if you're elected as a town meeting member, you do your homework as to what the issues are, what the budgets are. They feel that they have better informed participants at the town meeting. Because we can't afford to have a town meeting we had last year. It's not sustainable.
No, it isn't.
A couple of years we'll be bankrupt.
Yep.
We just can't do that.
Interesting to see this stuff.
We'll see. So we're gonna try and have a joint meeting with them at some point to discuss this.
Yeah, there's pros and cons, and it's like everything else. It comes down to the voters, and they'll decide, what form of government they want to have. I think now is the time that.
The funny thing is as you hear chatter or you see it on social media where people are complaining about this, that, and going on in town, and that only a certain group of people make decisions for everybody. But I'm like, that's not the case. Because if you show up and you go to town meeting, then you're expressing your voice. You have a chance to vote on things. So you do have a say. But if you don't show up, guess what? Yeah, you don't. You forfeited that vote. Your chance.
So is the ones that don't participate.
No, and I see a lot of that. And, it's just like, watch meetings if you can, and attend the annual town meeting. It's always typically the first Monday in in May, or June, right? Something, we've changed it a couple times over the years, but it should be on the town website. I mean,
It's everywhere, it makes it advertised as much as it's not.
right, so check out the town website for info, and if something's not there, then make a phone call.
Maybe the finance committee should be on the website, make a little website off the town website. Do we even have
You
it?
have your own.
You want to be in charge of that?
Yeah.
You have your own link where you can click on
Thanks for
tab as a
volunteering.
department and you can add what you want to that page, absolutely. We haven't, actually, Julie has a new person that knows how to use our website, that she can teach people how to add to it. If you want to take the lead on that.
Something into it.
We have so many new residents and voters in the town that are not familiar with the process, you know, the town meetings and the different committees and who do call for, you know, certain problems that they experience. At least with a representative town meeting, you know, you have the folks that do the research and come to the town meeting more informed as to the needs of the whole community as
And they'd be
As
added
opposed
to
to
these
just one.
meetings as well.
Yeah, but people don't go to these.
No, but if we had the representative members.
Right, absolutely.
They would probably be
Exactly.
added to these meetings. And they can see.
They would be voted in.
Yes, they have to be voted in by the order. Like, example, if you determine there's going to be 25 members from precinct 1,
Yeah.
then they'd be on the ballot.
Yeah.
They'd have to be voted in at the regular annual town meeting.
Next on the agenda is we have some minutes to approve from the meeting of June 16th. In attendance at that meeting was Mr. St. Jean, myself, Mr. Delgado, Mr. Ferrera, Eric Lynn, and Ms. Gail Rogers. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at these?
Approved.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Oh,
Okay, minutes are approved. Next on the agenda, it looks like we have a meeting set for August 11th, 2021. Melissa, yeah, do you have any idea of what that's being set up for?
Because
August?
that's an audit date, this is actually.
All right, so Kathy, maybe we'll try and find out from Julie if we actually even need the meeting. It might, maybe this just popped up.
Yeah, no, that's just the standard, it's the
Okay, so it
second
just
Wednesday,
popped
but,
up, okay.
yeah, but usually in August, there's not anything happening.
Okay, so there's
So I
no,
usually check like a week or
unless,
so
so unless
before.
everybody gets an email, or if you get a phone call from me, I won't forget you next time. Then we're not going to be meeting in August. So we'll keep everybody informed though. And that,
While we're on that subject, Mr. Chairman, but, you know, I think going forward, I think we're going to have to, or we should meet earlier in the year than what we did last year. I know last year was a lot of turmoil because of COVID. But I just think we've started the process a little too late in the season, and we'll kind of get jammed up and try to
Well, the departments be
work
ready.
things through
well,
it again.
actually, what I'd like to that point, a good reason to get started early would be to maybe get some feedback from the Board of Selectmen about what direction they want to go going forward for that coming fiscal year, in conjunction with Julie and Melissa. And we could, discuss how we want to go forward for that budget season, before we even start seeing the budgets come in. It'll give us a chance to have a game plan in place, so then we start going over these budgets, we kind of already know what direction we want to go in. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
We definitely need to develop a strategy.
Yeah, so we started off
Are you
a
talking
week
like
or
a
two,
couple of weeks earlier or a month earlier?
I think maybe a couple weeks ahead of time.
Well, I think probably, my suggestion would be at least a month.
A month.
to develop a strategy, you know.
What did-
We usually do it in February,
We
right?
started off in February, I think, last year, right?
Yeah, I think that's way too late. I think we should start
January.
January or
Beginning.
even earlier, you know, depending on, you know, what issues we're going to be looking at.
Unless we start right after the first of the year.
We do that as well.
All right,
It'll
so-
be mostly discussion and preliminary stuff, right? 'Cause there won't be any departments, don't have any.
But I think it's a good idea to get a core idea of where we want to be.
And if we know what's coming up, we've already decided on the direction to take when it actually comes up, it's a much quicker process.
Right, like we could maybe have a heads up as what's happening with PJ Keegan. You know, big items that may potentially come up, that kind of stuff.
We can always invite the department heads if they feel that they're going to have an extraordinary expense for the coming year. As a department head to come in even before the budget, you know, the budget is finalized and give us, you know, some insight as to why they're going to need a significant increase in their particular budget.
Yeah, we could do that as like just as a separate meeting in itself.
Right.
Yeah, I like that idea. Good idea.
Would it be possible to add the whole legal fee issue as a standard agenda item for this committee? Or some discussion, I mean, it's the potential to take up a lot of dough. So I just think, and I hear a lot of people, even in this body, asking, you know, what are the fees, what are the fees? We don't seem to have a clue, shouldn't we?
Well, yeah, I mean, especially even going forward too.
And,
Like,
and
when is this
knowing,
gonna?
like, what's going on with the litigation and something. I mean, it doesn't need to be this big detailed thing, but it could be a huge drain. And I just think we need to keep our
I
finger on
think
it.
that's something that
I'm
the
just
finance
wondering
committee
if
we
we
should
should
know.
rules a lawsuit. What kind of lawsuit, what kind of legal actions
I think we
would be
should
likely?
ask them.
How much the town is going to have to
Correct me
pay?
if I'm wrong, but I know a lot of that stuff, we
Can't
can't
ban
ban
an international corporation, with
So a lot of that stuff.
big deep pockets.
See, when
You know,
once
it's
it's
a-
discussed, it's a-
it's a scary situation.
So I'm not really sure what the open session is, an executive session.
Right, you know,
Right, a
we
lot of the
can't really
legal-
talk about it, but we need, as a group, to
I just
figure out a
don't
way
know
to
that we
keep
can
up.
have executive sessions, stuff
Yeah, the problem with litigation is that it's confidential.
like that.
And, amongst the, you know, the interested parties, PJ Keegan is the Selectman Board of Health, and PJ Keegan, so.
So because they're not suing the finance committee, we have no access to information?
No. Well, not if it's in litigation.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, if the board of selectmen wanted to come in and discuss it, but then it's open to
Right.
anyone who wants to watch and hear it, and that stuff is
That's
private.
an issue.
and-
They have their own, they developed their own strategies. and they-
Exactly, and
they
that's
just
stuff that you don't
make that
want to
strategy
hear.
public, so.
Understood, but,
Yeah.
so we can't be in the loop? Is that what
I
you're saying?
think we could to a certain degree,
Okay.
without getting into the particulars, you know. I'm sure they have, well, I'm not sure, but perhaps they have a, you know,
A general sense
yeah,
of
general sense of
where
where
it's
they're
headed.
going to be,
And at least
or
what
what
the,
the outcome's going to be.
and what the costs are. That's
I'll
all.
definitely reach out to Julie, as I mentioned, I'm not included in those meetings, so I can't.
Right.
If there were details I could give you, I'm not aware of it, so
Okay.
how about I reach out to her to say maybe you'd like to know as much information as you really can, maybe go from there, does that sound good?
Yeah, like a forecast.
And the one thing I would caution is, it would surprise me for somebody that has that big of a financial interest in the outcome, that there isn't a representative watching every public procedure that's being
Oh,
televised.
absolutely.
So
I'm sure.
the conversations here, when you talk about, say, well, you know, they've got deep pockets, how do we stand? If somebody's watching that, they're sitting there going, all right, we're in good shape.
Yeah,
Just keep
pushing
pushing.
it.
It's a, you know, it's a fact.
It is, I mean, you're not saying anything that's not, but
I'm
at the same time, you
I'm
don't
just
want to
worried
show
about
weakness.
repercussions, the town, what happens to the town? And town people, taxes, something.
Well, I think number one, the number one thing I think of this issue for me is the health of the residents.
Well, that's,
You know, 'cause
I
that
live,
place
I live on
needs to
South
be
Main Street,
following
one block away from
specific
the
guidelines.
place.
So people
I
don't
know,
sit,
I know
you know,
the
long
pollution
term.
that I get.
Yeah. and it's-
I can clean my windowsills and the next one I come up with,
Yep.
and they're all full of
So if there's whatever ways there are available to mitigate all that stuff, that should be utilized. You know, and they should be held to that standard. You know? So,
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
I think that covers it. Anybody have anything else to discuss before we,
On the,
Just the,
that's,
school about.
that's, if Julie was here, she'd probably shed some light on that, so we'll hold that for, next future meeting. Okay?
The backside are the things that were approved them to spend in town meeting on the back sheet, and that's what they've already expended.
And
So this is all the school committee, where they stand to sit at the end of the fiscal year?
Yeah, we met with Kristen and Paul and Dr. Bailey last week, and they kind of just, we wanted to know where they were at the end of the year to make sure that we're at good numbers, and as you can see, we're
Good.
at 239, so we're at least not in the deficit,
Yeah.
we're good. And that was our biggest concern, so at least, yeah, we know we're not bad. And I know maybe, I don't know if you were at the town meeting, but we approved them to do certain projects, and on the back, these are projects that they've already mentioned. Oh, you don't have the back sheet. Oh, look, I have an extra copy.
Thank you.
Yeah, very well. And then we can go over that in deeper detail, because that would take a little bit of time. I can just with you, make sure you have a lot
You
of
know what?
questions with the school.
Yeah, different page. Just wasn't on the same, wasn't on the same
No,
page.
you too.
Yeah, I took a look at this. I was surprised that, I mean, Chromebooks they needed for 43 grand, but I was surprised at some of the other expenditures that were there.
A lot of comments were also covered by KS for them, so they didn't really have to make that up.
Yeah.
So,
I was surprised when I saw 33,000 for a phone system upgrade. I said, wow.
well, their phone system was really bad, but it was copper wires that was wrong. So they,
Oh, they had copper lines still?
yeah, and it was kept going out. For them to replace the wires, it was actually better off for them to do it the way they did it. Which I'm not technical, so I don't know what they did.
all the technology that we need today is super costly.
Yep.
For every department. It's unbelievable. And you constantly have to do upgrades to it, and it's,
And yes, less of a useful life.
do we have any sense of when the town hall meeting is, do we have a date at all, or nothing?
No, that's not what this is.
All right, so no discussion with that.
No.
Okay, because I know typically that'll be sometime in October. I think we've had it early November, a couple of times. So there's been no discussion of whether or not there's going to be a need for a fall.
I'm pretty sure there will be,
Okay.
but there
Because
will
then usually
be.
the finance committee will meet maybe once or twice before the actual fall town meeting.
Yeah, there will be a discussion now, because I'll bring it to Julie.
All right, so
Yeah, so
if we can get a sense of how that's going to play out, just so we know as a committee when we should meet
Yeah,
prior to that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I think
Well, just out of curiosity, as we're looking for dates in that second Wednesday in the month, do we all get polled to see if dates work, or is a date just given?
That's
when we meet as a finance committee,
Yeah,
yeah, we try and get a consensus to make sure it's going to work for everybody.
okay.
Yep.
I'm just asking, I know I've got a couple of charity events out of state that.
Yeah, and if for some reason if you can't make every single meeting, that's okay too.
Yeah.
So what's good about having, somebody like yourself coming onto the committee, and another new member who's not here tonight, is it gives us a little bit of flexibility, so God forbid somebody's sick, they can't be
We only
here.
need 5, right?
Yeah,
For a
so
quorum.
as long as we have 5 people here, we'll have a quorum, but this gives us a little, leeway, which is, would work out nice. Because everybody's life is busy and things come up, and you might not be able to make it every single meeting, and that's okay. All right, so we have a motion to adjourn. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.